The foreclosure notice came on a Tuesday. I knew because my mother called me before noon, her voice thin and shaky, like she'd aged 10 years overnight. "They're taking the house, Emily," she said. "We don't know what to do." I closed my eyes and let the silence stretch. That house had been the center of my childhood. It held birthdays, arguments, long dinners where I stayed quiet so everyone else could speak. It was also the place where I learned that love could come with conditions. "I'm sorry," I said slowly. "I can't fix this." She started crying. Really crying this time. Not the kind meant to guilt me. This was raw. And for a moment, my chest tightened. Old instincts rose fast. Help! Save them! Don't let it end like this. But I stayed still, because saving them again would destroy me. My father took the phone next. His voice was cold, controlled, like it always was when he felt powerless. "So this is it," he said. "After everything, you're going to watch us lose our home." I answered honestly. "You watched me lose myself for years." He hung up. That was the last call I ever took from them. The house was gone within a month. They moved into a small rental across town. Jason crashed on friends' couches. No one called to ask how I was anymore. And for the first time, my life felt quiet. Not empty. Peaceful. I got promoted at work, not because I worked harder than before, but because I finally had space to focus. I paid off my remaining debt. I started traveling on weekends, small trips at first, just to remind myself that the world was bigger than my family's expectations. I changed my number. I didn't announce it. I didn't explain. I just closed the door. Months later, I ran into my mother at a grocery store. She looked smaller somehow, older, tired. She tried to smile. "You look happy," she said. "I am," I replied. She nodded like she understood, but I knew she didn't. Some people never do. As I walked away, I felt no anger, no need to prove anything, no desire for apology. That's when I realized the truth. My revenge was never about hurting them. It was about refusing to be used. I didn't destroy their lives. I simply stopped holding them together. And when I finally let go, I didn't lose my family. I found myself. If you're listening to this story and it feels familiar, let me say this clearly. You don't owe anyone your peace. You don't owe anyone your future. And walking away doesn't make you cruel. It makes you free. I stopped paying that night, and it cost me everything they valued. But it gave me everything I needed. The night my revenge began, nothing dramatic happened. No screaming, no tears, no slammed doors. I just stopped paying. My name is Emily Parker, and for most of my life, I was the person everyone leaned on. Bills, rent, groceries, school fees, emergencies that somehow were never their fault. I covered them all. I told myself it was love. Family helps family. That's what I was raised to believe. But love isn't supposed to drain you until there's nothing left. That night, I sat alone in my small apartment, staring at my phone as one notification after another popped up. Rent reminder, credit card due, electric bill, and then the final message, the one that broke something inside me. From my mother. "Don't forget your brother's car payment tomorrow. He's under a lot of stress." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was cruel in a way that felt almost impressive. I was under stress too. I worked 2 jobs. I skipped meals. I wore the same clothes for years. I hadn't taken a real vacation since college. But no one ever worried about that. They just worried about what I could give. Growing up, I was the responsible one, the quiet daughter, the safe choice. My younger brother, Jason, was the dreamer, the risk taker, the one who kept almost succeeding. Every time he failed, my parents looked at me like I was the backup plan. When I got my first real job, my dad said, "Now we can finally breathe." What he meant was, "Now we can finally use you." It started small, helping with utilities, covering groceries one month, then another, then paying off a credit card because family credit matters. When Jason wanted to start a business, guess who co-signed the loan? Me. When it failed, guess who paid it off? Also me. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself they'd appreciate it one day. I told myself I was strong enough to handle it. I was wrong. That night, as I sat on my couch, my bank balance stared back at me like a warning sign. I had less than $300 left. My paycheck wouldn't come for another 10 days. And tomorrow, they expected me to send $450 for Jason's car. I opened my banking app. My finger hovered over the pay button. That's when I realized something important. If I sent that money, nothing would change. If I didn't, everything would. So I locked my phone and placed it face down on the table. For the first time in years, I chose myself. I didn't announce it. I didn't explain. I didn't argue. I just didn't pay. The next morning, my phone exploded. Missed calls, texts, voicemails. My mother's messages started calm and quickly turned sharp. "Did you forget? Call me. This isn't funny. Your brother needs that car for work." Then my dad called. I answered. "Why didn't you send the money?" he asked. Not worried, angry. I took a breath. "Because I can't anymore." Silence. Then he said the words that changed how I saw them forever. "Well, that's selfish." Selfish. After years of sacrifice, after carrying their weight, after quietly falling apart. That's when I understood. They didn't see me as a daughter. They saw me as a solution. I didn't defend myself. I didn't cry. I didn't explain my bills or my exhaustion or the nights I went to bed hungry. I just said, "I'm done." And I hung up. That was the moment my revenge truly began. Not with anger, but with control. Not with destruction, but with absence. They had no idea what losing me would cost them, and I was finally ready to let them find out. The first week without my payments felt unreal. Not peaceful, not empowering, just quiet. Too quiet. I went to work, came home, cooked cheap meals, and watched the clock like I always did. The difference was my phone. It never stopped buzzing. I didn't block anyone. That was important. I wanted to hear it all. My mother's tone changed first. "Emily, I know you're tired, but this is family. Just help this month. We'll figure something out later." Later never came before. It wasn't going to start now. By the second week, panic crept into their voices. Jason left a voicemail at 2 a.m. slurring his words. "You're really gonna do this to me? I'm your brother." I replayed it twice. Not once did he ask how I was. Not once did he apologize. He just assumed I would fix it, like always. That's when I realized something important. They didn't miss me. They missed my money. I checked my bank account one morning and felt a strange mix of fear and relief. For the first time, my balance wasn't dropping like a leaking sink. I paid my own rent without stress. I bought groceries without checking prices 3 times. Small things, but they felt huge. My parents didn't adjust. They didn't budget. They didn't change their lifestyle. They waited for me to break. When that didn't happen, they got angry. My dad showed up at my apartment unannounced one Saturday morning. I opened the door and saw disappointment written all over his face, not concern. "You look fine," he said, scanning the room. I smiled. "I am." He didn't like that. He sat down like he owned the place and said, "Jason's car is 2 payments behind. Your mom's credit card is maxed out. This situation isn't sustainable." I nodded slowly. "You're right." His eyes narrowed. He was waiting for the part where I apologized. It never came. "So what are you going to do about it?" he asked. I leaned back against the counter. "Nothing." The silence between us was thick. He stood up abruptly. "After everything we've done for you," he said, his voice sharp, "this is how you repay us?" I looked him straight in the eye. "I repaid you for years." He left without another word. That was the day they stopped asking nicely. My aunt called next, then a cousin, then a family friend I barely knew messaged me on Facebook saying I should remember my roots. I didn't respond to any of them, but I noticed something else happening. Without my money, cracks started forming fast. Jason's car was repossessed. He blamed me publicly, posting vague messages about fake family and betrayal. My mother borrowed money from neighbors. My father tried to take out a loan and was denied. They were drowning, and for the first time, I wasn't jumping in to save them. Instead, I was building something quietly. I opened a new savings account at a different bank. I picked up extra shifts, not to survive, but to plan. I updated my resume. I took an online certification course I'd been putting off for years because I was always paying someone else's bills. Every step forward felt like a secret. They thought I was struggling. They thought I'd come back begging. They were wrong. One evening, my mother finally said what she'd been avoiding. "If you don't help us, we might lose the house." I closed my eyes. That house. The one where I was told to be grateful. The one where my dreams were always impractical. The one where love had conditions. "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it for the girl I used to be. "But I can't save you anymore." She cried. I didn't. That night, I slept better than I had in years. Because revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just letting people face the life they built without your support holding it up. And this was only the beginning. By the 3rd month, they stopped pretending this was a misunderstanding. They knew I wasn't forgetting. They knew I wasn't going through a phase. I was gone. That's when the tactics changed. My mother started sending long messages late at night, stories about how tired she was, how scared, how she didn't sleep anymore. She reminded me of every birthday party she ever threw me, every ride she gave me to school, every meal she cooked. She never mentioned the years I paid for their lives. Guilt was always their strongest weapon. Jason tried anger. He showed up at my workplace one afternoon, leaning against my car like he owned it. "You think you're better than us now?" he asked, smirking. "You make a little more money and suddenly you're too good for family?" I kept my voice calm. "Move away from my car." He laughed. "You owe me." That word. Owe. I looked at him and felt something shift. Not rage, not sadness. Clarity. "I don't owe you anything," I said. "I already paid." His smile disappeared. "You know Mom's health is getting worse," he said quietly. "If something happens, that's on you." I paused. This time, the threat almost worked. Almost. But then I remembered every time I was sick and still showed up to work, every time I cried alone so they could stay comfortable, every sacrifice that went unnoticed. "I won't carry that anymore," I said. "Step away." He did. 2 days later, my parents invited me to dinner. I almost didn't go. But I needed to see it for myself. The house looked the same, but the energy was different. Tense. Heavy. My mother hugged me too tightly. My father barely spoke. Jason avoided my eyes. They acted like everything was normal until dessert. My father cleared his throat. "We need to talk about a solution," he said. I waited. "We could sell the house," my mother said quickly, "but only temporarily. You could help us get back on our feet." There it was. Not an apology, not accountability. Another plan that ended with me paying. I stood up slowly. "I didn't come here to fix this." My father frowned. "Then why are you here?" I met his gaze. "To say goodbye." My mother gasped. Jason slammed his fork down. "You're abandoning us," he snapped. "No, I'm choosing myself." I left before they could stop me. That night I cried, not because I regretted it, but because I finally accepted the truth. They would never change. And that was okay, because I was already steps ahead. The certification I'd been working on paid off. I landed a better position at work, higher pay, better hours, benefits I'd never had before. I didn't tell anyone in my family. I started therapy. I learned words for things I'd felt my whole life but never understood. Enmeshment, financial abuse, conditional love. It wasn't just healing, it was preparation. One evening, I got an unexpected email from my father's bank. He had listed me as an emergency contact years ago and forgot to remove it. They were foreclosing. I stared at the screen for a long time. Old me would have panicked. Old me would have stepped in. Instead, I closed my laptop because I knew what was coming next. They were about to hit rock bottom, and for the first time, I was ready to let them fall. By the third month, they realized something important. I wasn't coming back. The angry calls slowed down. The threats stopped. The accusations faded. And then came the most dangerous phase of all: guilt. It started with my mother. She sent long messages late at night, the kind meant to be read in the dark when your defenses are weakest. "I raised you better than this. I never thought my own daughter would turn her back on us. I guess money matters more to you than family." I read every word. I just didn't respond. Silence was new to them. They didn't know how to fight it. Jason tried a different approach. One afternoon, he showed up outside my apartment building. I saw him through the window, pacing, checking his phone like he expected me to run out and fix things. I didn't. Eventually, he knocked. When I opened the door, he smiled like we were old friends. "You look good," he said, scanning me like he was looking for proof that I was suffering. "I am," I replied. That annoyed him. He stepped inside without being invited and dropped onto my couch. "Mom's not doing well," he said casually. "She cries all the time now." I waited. "She barely eats, says she failed as a mother." He looked at me. "You really okay with that?" There it was. I folded my arms. "Is this the part where you ask how I'm doing?" He scoffed. "This isn't about you." That sentence hit harder than any insult. For years, nothing had been about me. "You should leave," I said. He stood up slowly. "You think you're teaching us some lesson? You're just proving you're cold." I opened the door. "I learned from the best." He stared at me, shocked, then laughed like I was joking. I wasn't. After that, the extended family stepped in. Aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Suddenly, everyone cared. They didn't ask what happened. They didn't ask why I stopped paying. They just wanted things to go back to normal. Normal for them, misery for me. One aunt called me selfish. Another said I'd regret this when my parents were gone. A cousin warned me that karma keeps receipts. I blocked them one by one. Not out of anger, out of clarity. At work, something strange happened. I started to relax. I wasn't constantly checking my phone. I wasn't calculating who needed money next. I wasn't living in fear of emergencies that weren't mine. For the first time in my adult life, my paycheck stayed in my account. I paid off my own debt. I fixed my car. I bought new shoes without guilt. Small freedoms, but they felt huge. One night, I sat on my bed and realized something that scared me. If I went back now, it wouldn't be because I loved them. It would be because I was afraid. And I was done being afraid. A week later, my parents invited me over for dinner. I almost said no. Almost. The house felt smaller than I remembered, quieter. My mother hugged me too tightly. My father avoided eye contact. Jason wasn't there. We ate in silence until my mother finally spoke. "We just want things to be how they were," she said softly. I set my fork down. "I don't." My father looked up. "You don't miss your family?" I answered, "I miss the idea of one, not this." My mother started crying. "So that's it? You're punishing us?" I shook my head. "I'm not punishing anyone. I stopped sacrificing myself." My father's voice hardened. "You think you're stronger than us now?" I stood up. "I know I am." I left before dessert. In my car, my hands were shaking, not from regret, but from relief. That night, I slept deeply because I finally understood something important. They didn't want reconciliation. They wanted access. And the moment I stopped giving it, I stopped being useful to them. That's when they began to panic. And that's when my real revenge started to take shape.